Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody. It's, who knows at this point, it's a day in April or May.
That's fantastic that we got him in those months, possibly.
I'm Ryan Miller, and that was Matt Amberg.
Shazam.
No, we did, at this point, the Shazam show is probably like 2 episodes past.
So this is another follow-up episode.
Yes, every show after the Shazam show, I'm getting pretty good at saying that now.
Yeah.
Is a follow-up episode.
That's correct.
We are still in the same place. This is still one of those shows that we've banked here at the Colorado headquarters for 0 hit points or Book Club for Movies, depending on your point of view. Why is that funny?
I just like that it's a headquarters.
It is.
I like that we have headquarter on the coast and we've got Midwest headquarters.
You're right. We have none on the East Coast. No. Get into contact. Get into
contact with us. We're clearly very good at this. So obviously you want us on your podcast
we need
network.
An East Coast presence.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we're looking to do a 3-way.
Yes. Okay.
Well,
on Book Club for Movies, where we normally talk about movies, watch one, and then have a conversation. You to join in it like Book Club. This week...
Would you just get all like Eastern European there?
Whatever.
You have to join Book Club?
We are eschewing movies just all together.
They're eschewed.
For a special episode that we've probably teased at some point. I think we did mention it. We did a on the last one for the thing that was coming up for the next one. That's
possibly Shazam too.
Okay. TVVB.
It's not a disease.
Or television volleyball for the uninitiated, which
I am.
We are. This is the first one of those. We've tried to come up with maybe some ground rules. The only ones that I really know about are that, number one, it has to be something we're actively watching.
Yes.
We can't just pick TV shows and talk about them willy-nilly.
Yeah, no nillies. That's no willies.
Not appropriate.
Inappropriate.
And that we will volley them. Matt will start, because I just decided that right now.
Awesome.
He'll throw it to me, and then I'll throw it to him. I don't know how you score points in this scenario.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah. We'll find out who wins at the end of the show.
Okay. I want to get another rule out there here first. Is there a spoiler situation here? Do we get to talk about how things end in a series if I'm actively watching it and you know about it, but you claim you're not actively watching it? These are things I need to know. And you know why I need to know them, because the first thing I'm going to volley at you...
Let's play it by ear.
Well, all right, here, let's talk about your ears, because the first thing I'm going to volley at you, since I'm first, is The Walking Dead.
Did somebody lose an ear in The Walking Dead?
No, maybe. I don't know. There's
actually,
lots
you know what? Definitely, I'd say.
I'm sure somebody did. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense that they wouldn't. I'm sure somebody was wearing a necklace of ears.
And we've done Walking Dead, I feel like pretty recently. We've done a mini convo on it, although I don't remember if it was book club or if it spilled out in 0 hit points on Tuesday or something like that.
It could have been just between the two of us.
But also that.
Just the two of us.
But you are farther ahead in the series than I am now, because I usually wait till the series is done and then I get it all at once and we kind of marathon it. And we just haven't done that for now, I think, the last 2 seasons. So I'm 2 seasons behind.
Yeah.
I was already more current because you had stopped watching.
Yeah, I had stopped watching at season 5.
Okay. And I think...
and actually, it was mid-season 4 that I quit watching.
Oh, all right. Is it going to be mid-season 3 by the time if we keep going? Jeez.
No, I wish I had caught that as a joke first, because I was like, no, I just got through season 3.
I swear. So you know what? You can spoil this one. I don't really care, especially if you got stuff to say about why you're back into it. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I picked up The Walking Dead as a comic book about 6 months after it was released, after it started coming out. Not by my own anything. The comic book shop owner and I had talked and I bought a bunch of zombie books that were kind of like short run things that were just, independent stuff because I like zombie things.
I picture a young, scrappy Matt taking his zombie comics just wherever he can find them.
Pretty much. I mean, it was similar to me looking for the Tales from the Crypt stuff the other night.
Especially since this is 15 years ago?
Oh,
how long is Walking Dead going on?
Yeah, I guess it would be about 15 years.
Close.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Well, I was scrappy back then. Now I'm old and just sit.
And wiry.
Yeah, yes, that's what I call my beer belly is the wiry one. So I got caught up pretty quickly because this comic book shop owner was like, "You've got to read this book. It's so good. You're gonna love it." And so I picked it up. Like I said, about 6 months in or so. Which wasn't far into the run at all. I think that was maybe issue 6, actually.
Oh, really? So it wasn't like a week, or I guess no comics are typically
I
weekly.
don't remember if it was monthly then, or if it went, or when it went monthly. If it wasn't, I honestly,
okay.
It's just been so, it's been so long, and then I stopped collecting them after. Oh man, I think I stopped collecting them right after the Governor's part. So right after basically where I'm at in the show on my rewatch.
Season 3, which we've talked about recently.
Right, and I just finished that season, so his arc goes to part of season 4. I think
isn't he in a little bit of the first
I think
part?
It's the first couple of episodes maybe, and then that moves on to one of my favorite actually parts that was in the show is Terminus. That goes on to the Terminus section, which is a fantastic.
And that's where I think that season ends with them locked in the train car.
Yeah.
Which you might not be to yet. But
no, I know what happens because I like that whole section. That was good. I didn't stop watching until maybe mid season 4. But that was one of those things that people talked about. And I picked up on watching it at like in.
You followed the show regardless of watching it or not.
I did. I never dropped the show, but it was there were some times when it was like, this is just terrible.
Which is funny because I want to say, I can't remember which one it was, but when you were stopped watching, it was one of my favorite seasons, I think. The one where the staff guy, the guy that's good with the staff, you know all the names. Morgan comes back into the show. The season ender on that, where he shows up just as Rick has, I believe, shot somebody in the head.
I think that might have been season 5.
Okay,
maybe.
all right.
I'm not sure.
Fantastic ending.
I haven't gotten to that yet. I know it's not season 3, so it could be 4. I don't know. No, it's not 4.
As mine.
No, it's not 4 because 4 ends in Terminus, and and Morgan's not there yet, so it must be 5.
Okay.
But I didn't. I kept up with it as best I could, but season 4, I feel like something dropped off for me. I'm not sure what.
I'm sure you actively disliked something. Yeah.
But then I found out about the Terminus stuff, and maybe it was just I liked the ending part of that because I don't remember how it starts. I remember all the way through them being caught, them being finding out what the Terminus people are, what they do to people, which, I mean, we don't have, I don't know why I don't know why I'm dancing around this, that they're cannibals and that they have this like trough where they cut everybody, they hit people with a hammer and they cut their throat, or they hit them with a bat and they cut their throat. And I remember, because that's not exactly really in the comics, there's kind of an analog thing, but nothing really like that I remember.
And the show has diverged from the comics
in a number of ways.
The longer it goes, it seems.
And it's definitely going to pretty soon because they're catching up to the comic. Like, they're on the comics' heels at this point. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I wonder if they end the show there when that happens.
No.
Well, never. If they end the mothership, though, because they got Fear the Walking Dead, and I actually just read something that they
want to do another one, and they've got the 3 movies that are going to be about Rick.
And Rick is out of the show now.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they end that show there at that point. Would make a good idea.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea how they're gonna end the show.
Fear the Walking Dead doesn't pull anything from the comics, right? It's just universe.
No, it's just universe. Yeah, I mean, like Abraham, I think, is in the show now. He shows up, and
Fear the Walking Dead.
Morgan's in the show.
I know Morgan was in there.
Yeah, I think Abraham shows up. Oh, maybe it's not Abraham. It's
I'm like, is this a prequel then?
But
because Abraham.
It's what's his name? Dwight. It's Negan's
from The Office.
Yeah, that's right. Rainn Wilson.
I really want to watch the show now.
Yeah, God, that would be such an interesting show. He's great in Cooties. That's a fun movie where he gets to be fighting. Anyways, Dwight, Negan's like right-hand man, not Simon,
right,
but
long hair dude.
He was burned one.
Burned guy.
He's on Fear the Walking Dead, and I guess it's not a prequel. I think at one point it was maybe.
No, but you said Abraham, so I was like, well, this has to be a prequel,
right? And maybe that's why it is not possibly.
Okay. In any event,
so. I dropped off, and season 5, I was not like it. Just nothing about it seemed interesting to me.
You were not up on the Negan stuff, or just you were up on it. No, you were not into it.
I was not into the way they were doing it, and I don't remember. Was that season 6 is when the Negan stuff?
That's actually what might have had me drop off. Whereas I liked the ending of that season. The whole first half of the Negan season is just Negan's a bad guy. Like I feel like there's just zero. I feel like season 6 isn't Negan yet. Season 6 is when they find the saviors. That makes sense. 7 is Negan, and then I haven't watched 8 or 9 at this point.
Yeah, and the last episode of season 6 is the Negan introduction and the eeny meeny miny mo, the lineup.
Okay.
Which when that showed up in the comics, and I admit I am not a fan of that cliffhanger. I thought that was a really terrible cliffhanger.
In the show, or
in the show?
They cliffhanger
no, they don't cliffhanger it at all in the book.
All right.
No, in the show, I didn't like the cliffhanger.
Well, if you think about it, it has like more impact if you don't. Like, I get that the whole marketing thing they spun up, and that was like probably really great for the show that they did do it like that.
Right.
But think about if they hadn't, and it just that's it. That arguably would have created more buzz.
No, I think so. I think that makes it even more tense because you know that you're going to see that again at the beginning of next season,
or that you could see it at any time,
and that but that you're also now what's going to happen to the rest of them. And I personally think they should have killed Abraham at the end of the first season, and then followed that up with the rest of the sequence.
That would have been
and letting Glenn die, because that leaves people that read the comic going, man, is Glenn gonna live? No, he's gonna do it again.
And you wouldn't expect it, right off the bat.
Because the only people that expected that were the people who read the spoilers. Everybody else was like, he did 2 of them. What? and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I go back and watch that sequence over and over again because I love good gore, and that is just a really well done scene.
I will agree with you that is gory.
Yeah, and I love it.
That features gore.
And so that season, what I hated about season 7 and 8 were that the story they were telling, the all-out war story, was like 6 issues long. You did not need to extend it that long. They got a ton of sequences in there that were 1-to-1 with the comic, like a bunch of them. They got the little pig when Negan shows up for the first time and comes into Alexandria, that one, like 1-to-1. Him killing the one guy where he says, you're coming to me and you're asking me to do your dirty work. It's because you got no guts. He stabs him and he says, there they are. Like, that was all. Okay. That was book. The Carl scene, with the coral scene at the sanctuary, in the book, like, great. And those were great moments to see, but it took freaking forever to get this stuff moving. I hated that they needed 2 seasons to tell that story, because they didn't, period.
Which just makes me angry because I didn't like the first half of that season that was just like reestablishing Negan as a bad guy. And I guess it serves some purpose, because like I said, I did enjoy the ending, probably because the beginning was so annoying, but yeah, in the end, I'll never watch it again. Like,
so you were behind on seasons 8 and 9, right?
Correct. I have not watched any of 8 and 9.
Okay.
The last one I watched, which I believe was 7, which I think is what you're talking about, it has like the first entire half of that season just being Negan's a bad guy. Look at this bad thing Negan did. Negan did another bad thing. Here's Negan.
Well, and
I'm just sick of it. I just was like, I get it. I got it.
Right. And they're trying to make him out, they've got to make him the biggest bad guy, because he is, in terms of the characters like that they've met, he's the most sadistic in that he doesn't seem to be bothered by any of it. Sure. He's having fun with it.
Right.
But it took too long. And
agree.
There were bottle episodes in there that didn't need to happen. There were characters that showed up that didn't need to happen. The garbage people thing was a total waste of time, totally unnecessary. I
like the garbage people.
That's fine. It was unnecessary. To me, and especially when we get to this current season, it advanced absolutely nothing. There was no story that it got advanced by that. It did not help other than to say Negan is a bad guy.
Gotcha.
Again.
Do you want to get to the current season? Because this is TV volleyball.
That's true. That's true.
TV Walking Dead.
That's right. All right. So the current season, I love it. This is a great season. Started a little slow, partially because AMC made such a big deal about these are Rick's final episodes. So for me, it was let's get this over with because I need this show to pick up. But it was a good start to the season. Now, when I mentioned the trash people, I swear they had to have this planned out. Jadis or whatever I can't remember what they change her name to when they allow her into the camp, because that's what ultimately happens. Jadis becomes a good guy, and she
is that the main.
She was the main garbage person with the terrible haircut.
Yes.
Yeah. She is allowed into the camp. She spends time, I think, with Father Gabriel. They get close, and then she was considering leaving the mark on Father Gabriel so he would be picked up by the helicopters, which we still don't know what they mean. There's a mark that she puts on people, and she told Rick at one point that he's an A, and the A, I guess, is who goes on the helicopter, but we don't know where the helicopter goes. So,
but a helicopter does come. Like
a helicopter does get seen. It's the third or fourth helicopter in the series that they see.
Huh.
And so ultimately what ends up happening is Rick is riding back to Alexandria or something. He sees a bunch of walkers. His horse bucks. He falls onto a piece of rebar that goes right through his side, which of course he's going to survive from. He gets off the rebar before the zombies get to him. He walks across a bridge, sees something that explodes, shoots the explosive thing, blows the bridge up. So we're assuming he's gone. In doing so, Daryl, all of them saw him get blown up. They don't find out and realize he got blown down into the river. Jadis finds him, and they go off in the helicopter. So that's Rick's death, quote unquote.
Interesting.
Didn't love it.
Yeah.
Because just kill him. That's what they should have done.
Sure.
Just kill you. You killed Carl 1 season ago in the dumbest way possible. Carl never should have died. Period. Stupid. And that's the thing. He died in a dumb way. That's the problem with his death.
Sure. I mean, I think my main issue with that show and every show almost ever is that it's getting to that point where you realize they're spinning wheels. They're just going on as long as they can.
So anyways, the episodes are great. The season is great. The Whisperers are an awesome bad guy for them.
Which is the most you can do is enjoy.
And they're great. They just finished the season with the Pikes, and the Pikes were great. And I actually love that they did the Pikes. So they had a major deaths. And that wasn't the season finale. The season finale was them dealing with a storm in the winter, and that's moving on. Fantastic way to end the season. Yeah. Love it. I'm actually excited for next season to see how knowing what I know. And by the way, this is the last thing I'll say about it.
Okay.
This is the season where Negan gets his redemption arc, and it begins here.
Oh, that's your prediction?
No. It did.
Oh.
In season 9, his redemption arc is
redeemed.
Yes, his redemption arc begins. The whole
he has a redemption arc in the comics, and it appears to be beginning this season.
And it began this season.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right, that took too long. I hope
that's interesting.
Please edit that down to just when I talk about that.
I don't know why I'm moving you along, because honestly, we can just do this for as long as we want and talk about whatever we want. It's TV volleyball. I'm in Colorado. Hey.
But you're right. This should be a short thing because volleyball is a quick back and forth. So
I feel like The Walking Dead has popped its head into our conversation enough times that this might just be therapeutic or useful for not talking about it for a while. So,
sure.
Hey.
My recommendation to you is actually finish out season 8. It's a bit of a slog. There's some good stuff in there.
I'm going to start it before I finish it out. I don't care what you say.
Because get to this season. It's good.
Okay.
All right. Volleyball.
Volleyball.
Here we go.
Are you ready? My rejoinder for The Walking Dead is The Flash.
Tight.
Yes. This, again, I don't know how we score points, but I feel like I might not have scored one with this. And also, I'm not going to have a ton to say, I feel like, on all of mine.
Oh, no. That was the one I have the most to say.
All right. So this might be more normal throughout. Yes, normal. Perfectly normal.
Something we've never done before.
The Flash, and me and you have gone back and forth on this, I feel like, already.
Yeah, a few times.
I'm talking about the current one, not the John Wesley Shipp one from the 80s or 90s, whenever. I think it was 1990, right on the nose.
Yeah, and also good.
Very excellent. I love that show.
Mark Hamill
is in it, but he's also in this show. And since you're going to mention that, I will mention one of the strong points of this show first, I guess, is that they do nostalgia right. Like, I love that John Wesley Shipp is in the show.
Yeah.
I love that they're just callback after callback. Mark Hamill is in the show, and they have follow-ups on that. And
as the same character from the original Flash show, as Trickster.
I love all that stuff. That stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably my favorite thing about the show.
Sure.
Something that I think has been a problem with the show that just keeps coming up, and honestly me and my wife used to watch this together. She's completely dropped off. She's like, hey, watch this season. Or actually, she didn't say this. I suggested it. She's like, I don't know if I can Flash anymore. And I'm like, okay, what if I'm watching? I'll watch it and I'll let you know. And she's like, okay, that's cool. So I've been watching it, but I've been watching it mostly while I do stuff on my phone, and it's been probably tellingly no better or worse for it. But the problem this show has had from the very beginning that I think I've had an issue with is that the character motivations are just always stupid. Like, they've never been relatable for me. It started since the very beginning when Iris was upset at Barry for not telling her that he was the Flash. Like, that was a thing. They got in a fight about it for a while.
Right.
Come on, man. This season, you get such nuggets as... so this season, Nora has shown up. She showed up at the end of last season. Nora is Barry and Iris's daughter from the future who has traveled back into the past to... We don't know entirely what yet. We know that the Flash is missing in the future, and that's part of it. Anyways, we get such motivational nuggets as Barry is sad and disappointed for an episode because life has been so crazy that he was looking forward to experiencing a quote-unquote normal first with his wife when they had their first child, and he was able to meet their first child as everybody meets their first child after she's born. But instead, the universe has brought Nora back from the future, and that's how he gets to meet her, and he's sad about it because it's not normal. I'm sorry.
No, I love it because I totally can see that. I'm not current with the season, so I could totally see that because that is about the
dumb. It's just dumb, man. Like and it carries throughout the whole episode. Like, this is the reason you're supposed to get into it and identify, and it's the problem. And I don't even like the formulaic nature of it. I don't even care about, because there's always a moment where they get over it, and it's usually like that movie's that show is really formulaic. Like they
sure.
In fact, they sometimes point it out, which might be a strength, but it's probably Cisco that's usually pointed out too.
Who's leaving the show?
Is he leaving the show?
Yeah.
Interesting. In any event, we also get Nora being mad at Iris because Iris at some point suppresses Nora's power. So she's mad at Iris now for something she will do in the future.
Sure.
Yes.
Because if she gets mad now, then maybe mom won't do it.
It gets better.
Oh, good.
If that isn't stupid,
it might not be.
Iris feels bad because she did that in the future. And then goes back on it and is like, you know what? And Barry helps her out on this one. If I did it, I must have done it for a good reason. And then stands by the decision she doesn't know why she made that she makes in the future that has distanced her from her daughter in the present.
Which, I mean, to a point, kind of stands to reason.
It makes sense. No, I mean, everything's logical about all this.
I feel like that's
an actual person.
I feel like that's on Nora on this one.
Well, yes, no, definitely.
Okay.
Anyways,
I'm glad we're on the same. I think Iris is right.
This season doubles down on all that.
How's Ralph?
Ralph's great. I still like Ralph.
Okay.
They're probably underutilizing him. In fact,
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Every Berlanti show seems to underutilize their best characters.
Although he does have a couple episodes.
Sure. That's good.
Yeah, I'll keep going on good stuff about the show. There is one episode, and I mentioned this to you kind of quickly the other day, where they use the series power of playing fast and loose with the rules to their advantage.
Sure.
That's one of the other things, and we've definitely gone back and forth about this. His powers can be inconsistent. Which is sometimes he's fast enough for a bullet, sometimes he's not really. Or,
right, and that's a thing in the comics too. It's very much a whenever they need him to do something, right, they can, or he'll get there.
Right, yeah. So that I feel like hasn't been so bad, or I've gotten used to it. But the other thing they tend to do, and this is where it gets really weird, is they will play fast and loose with some of those things, like especially time travel, or going in between
dimensions,
universes or dimensions, Earth 2 and all that.
Right.
Like at some point it was very hard, and they kind of still pretend like it is, but it's not. Like if they decide they want to go back in time, they're going back in time. Like it's no big deal anymore.
Right. It's like they figured out, if I don't do anything while I'm back there, nothing gets screwed up.
Kind of. So one of the episodes I did like, they used this ability of theirs to kind of be like, we're going to do, time travel, to go back and revisit a bunch of different points from the show. And it's actually pretty cool. Like I like that episode. Yeah, it's fun. That's kind of a clip show, but done well. Yeah. Like they're recreating a lot of the scenes and what happens in them and stuff like that. So yeah, it's done well. It's cool. It's fun. I want to say the series is actually picking up at that point too, so I haven't dropped it, and I'll keep going on it. Right now I've stopped because there's an Elseworlds crossover they did with Arrow and Supergirl.
No Legends this time?
I don't know.
Okay.
Possibly. Actually, no. There was no Legends episode of it because I downloaded all the Elseworlds episodes, I think. But the episode right before Elseworlds Flash ends with there's a bad guy that pops up, whatever, I don't recognize him, and he's got a box of something, and the Flash is on the ground next to him. But when it pans on the Flash, it's John Wesley Shipp in his costume from the 90s show.
Oh!
And he runs off. Yeah, so I'm freaking sold on that thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
because that costume, by the way, didn't it look fuzzy?
It did. And it was great.
It looked fuzzy, right?
Like it looked super comfortable, actually, is what it did.
It kind of, yeah. Like I feel like masks. I feel like it's a Carrie Elwes thing. I think they're terribly comfortable. I think everybody's going to be wearing them in the future. It's like
that would be great. I think we'd be fine with that.
It's honestly one of my favorite lines from The Princess Bride, by the way. It's just so so cavalier about how he says it. Anyways,
Thursday book club for movies.
Yeah. Wait, now book club for movies.
And that's all I got on Flash. So
all right,
volleyed, sir.
Well, you know what? I'll pivot, I guess, from what I was going to do, and I'll go this way. You were watching a comic book show, which I am not caught up with, but I will say I still really love that show. It's goofy as all hell.
You should respond to what I've said.
It's real goofy, and I enjoy it. And it is, to me, I have the same attitude towards it as I do like every other movie and all that stuff. It's an Elseworlds thing. It's its own thing, using characters I like, characters I know. They're remixed however they need to be, and I like it. It's stupid. Season 4, I know you weren't as big of a fan, and I was like, I
couldn't even tell you what happened.
That's no, because that was the conversation we had.
I could, because they're pretty defined seasons. What was season 4? Savitar?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Savitar was not great. No, season 4 was season 4 Savitar. Season 4 was the introduction of Dibney. Now I'm not.
So it was the Thinker then.
It was the Thinker. Yes, okay. That's what it was.
Oh, that's right. That is the one and we have gone back on that.
Yeah, and I remember I like that significantly more than you did.
I was fine with that season. I'm fine with every season, although I think Zoom might still be my favorite season.
By far.
I like that dude.
Zoom was good, yeah.
They go back to that in the episode I mentioned, which is part of the cool thing. But yeah, I don't look back and be like, the show is just kind of at the same level.
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of the problem. But
this is a show though that I will totally go back to when it's done, and I'll rewatch this. Absolutely.
Never.
Arrow, absolutely not. And Arrow I dropped off at season 3. Done. But okay, let's pivot here. Okay. So superhero to superhero, I've been watching Gotham.
Oh man, how did I forget this was coming? Okay.
I love this show. I love it so much. The first season was definitely slow, and I know you brought that up. I think you tried to watch it and you were like, this is not.
It was partly the first episode. It was also partly they did like a promo thing that lasted like 20 minutes. It might have been the length of a real show, wherein they were supposed to really pitch you this thing, and it was freaking horrible.
Ooh, I don't remember.
It was so bad. I was like, wow, there's no way I'm going to watch this show. Like everything and the way you're showing it to me is horrible. Like there's no way the show is as bad as that thing was.
Probably.
So I'll give you that.
Who knows?
But it really turned me off. It's super bad. So
I had only heard kind of negative things about it. And I was like, one night I was eating something and I was doing like, I was putting clothes away or something. And I was like, yeah, I always watched a TV show and I went, yeah, I'm going to put this on. And I just was sucked into it. I was like, I totally love this concept. I love the idea here. And as it's gone on, I still love it. I'm in the 3rd season now. And the show has just gotten so good to me. I love that the first season was an establishing season. It was slow. I admit it was kind of slow. Jada Pinkett Smith character is not, I don't think anybody liked her.
She was in it.
Yeah. She's a major part of the first season and she's just she's not good. It's not a good character. But she shows back up towards the end of this season because she was killed at the end of the first season.
What season are you in and what season is the show in?
The show I think is in 6, which is its last season.
Right,
like the final episodes are coming up if they haven't aired already. I am just starting season 3. So I've gone through season 1 was that establishing thing. We're finding out that Jim Gordon is a good cop at heart, but he is also totally willing to, if he has to push things, he will. We know about Harvey Bullock. Harvey is of course the hard-nosed cop. So he's the one that he and Gordon work together. Harvey is the one that he has all the connections. He is also the one that introduces Gordon to Penguin, who is played by this awesome, like Penguin is great. Nigma works at the police station, is a forensics guy.
Oh, really?
And he ends up using that to frame Gordon in the 2nd season and 1st season. It's all like there's a couple things. We get remix characters like Firefly can't fly, still has the suit, and is a girl who was being beaten up by her brothers and being taken advantage of by her brothers who were pyromaniacs, and she just decides that's it. So there are lots of really cool changes to the show while sticking with some really fun, interesting things from the comics that kind of fit in. Like Bullock is great. Donal Logue is Bullock, and everybody likes Donal Logue. He's a red-haired guy. He was on Grounded for Life. As soon as you see him, you go, "Oh, it's that guy."
Him,
yeah. Ben McKenzie is Gordon.
Sure.
I love Alfred. Alfred is awesome.
Oh, who is Alfred in the show?
Sean Pertwee, and he's been in stuff, but I could not tell you what it was.
Okay.
He is great because he's still young enough to where he's like where he can fight.
I like that Alfred.
And he's so good, and it's so much fun because
Special Forces Alfred.
Yeah. He's a little bit older, but he's still able to do it. And so the 2nd season that I just finished was called Rise of the Villains. Like that was actually the like subtitle of the whole season.
Okay.
And it's a great season. It introduces Hugo Strange and played by BD Wong, and holy crap, such a good character. All through that season was amazing. He was awesome, and he gets a couple of like episodes he's never in like a full episode. Like he's never like outside maybe the last episode, he's kind of a major part of, he's in like a lot of scenes.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been actively trying to sell me on this show, but you've been telling me about how much you like it, and you're like, hey, this is really good. I'm like, okay, sure. And you're like, hey, this is really good. I'm like, okay, sure. And then you're like, BD Wong is Hugo Strange. I'm like, dang it.
I wasn't. I was actually just telling you that I like the show. But man, he is so good in that role. He's so good. Yeah. And they used him in the right way. They spoilers coming. They don't kill him off, which is fantastic because they have killed people in this show. Like there are just some characters.
Well, because you mentioned remix. They're remix characters. Also, it's kind of an Elseworlds thing. Like
and I think what I like about the show is that it's definitely those things, but it's kind of in my head, because again, I think this is a lot of headcanon stuff that goes in here.
Sure.
It is showing how much worse Gotham was before the Bat shows up. And it's kind of like we get an idea of that's what Gordon has to do to try and clean up the streets. That's what Harvey does just to make his living, because he doesn't want to deal with it, and he'd rather just, sure, I'll take kickbacks. I think it's that introduction. And I mean, and it certainly is, because you are bringing in the Riddler. He's not calling himself the Riddler yet, but he's using the question marks, and he's getting a lot more. Green is showing up for Enigma, and he's been put in the asylum. Penguin has in the first season, he hated being called Penguin, and now he kind of has taken it in, and he's using it it's his thing now. You know, he's accepted it, and he is brutal. He is just so mean, and it's awesome. I
like Penguin as a crime boss too.
Yeah, he is in this show. He's totally a leader of he's a leader and he actually usurps Jada Pinkett, and he's a leader. He has all the stuff going for him, and he gets his hands dirty. He tells his guys to go, but he absolutely will beat people to death. And
Mechanical Penguins?
Not yet. Not yet. But I think the bar they open, he's got penguins in there.
Okay. Oh, is it the what was the name of it?
It's not that bar yet.
Okay.
No, it's not that bar yet.
The Penguin has a bar in the Arkham games, and I was thinking of that.
I think he has it in the comics too.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah,
that would make sense, actually. Yeah.
But I really like the show. It's a lot of fun. This second season was just dynamite, and I'm super, super excited about season 3. Like, I can't wait to see how this goes, and knowing that I've seen the previews for the current season, knowing that we're going to get some weird versions of Bane, and we're finally going to get to see him in the last couple episodes be the Batman.
That makes sense. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and I love the kid David Mazouz, the way that they've got him playing it. He totally is played up the way Alfred would have raised him. So he's very straightforward. He talks in a very authoritative way, but he's very reserved.
How much is Bruce Wayne in the show?
Lots.
Okay.
He is still a big character in the story, and the story basically kicks off as his parents are killed. Jim Gordon shows up as a plainclothes or as a beat cop type guy, and Jim he promises Bruce he'll find the killers or the killer.
All right.
Yeah. Love the show.
Yeah, well, this conversation isn't helping me.
You've been volleyed to, sir.
Not watch it.
You have been volleyed to.
All right. Well, I guess we'll keep on this kick then. And I did mention this already a little bit, but I'm also in the middle of my daughter's favorite TV show.
Adventure Time.
I said my daughter's, not mine.
Oh, regular show.
No. Supergirl.
Nice. That's cool that it's your daughter's favorite show. I love it. Oh, yeah.
No, it loves it totally. And honestly, I don't know if this is because it was inherited. So that show started out on just, I think, CBS, mainline. I think it was network even, not even download.
It was either that
or ABC maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it got canceled or transferred. I don't know if it ever got strictly canceled or if it just how the transition went. But it got picked up by CW and brought into its stable of DC Universe TV, which I think it fits with perfectly.
Yes. I
also think it's possibly the best produced one of any of those shows.
I think that for me was evident in the first season, honestly.
So first season is when it was on that other. That's why I say I don't know if this is because it's inherited. It has
the second season, I think the same thing though.
No, also, there were some very kind of initially disappointing changes because the first season was very careful not to, in fact, it had dialogue and storylines pertaining to why and how this mattered, not bringing in Superman. Right. Even though he was in the universe and existed and they are cousins and stuff like that. When they transferred to the other network, they obviously gave up on that. They brought in Superman right away.
Yeah.
And I want to say even while I watched it and enjoyed it, it wasn't as good as the first season, and I kind of had some issues with that and the way they did that. They did some other things too that they were careful to be slow about in the first season. They just did it all immediately in the second season. But now, not only is that show still very watchable and still, I think, like I said, produced better than any of the other DC TV shows, it's unabashedly political. I don't know how caught up are you on it?
I am still, I think, in the middle of season 2. Okay. I really enjoy the show. It was just one of those I got caught up in a rash of. I realized that season 3 and 4 or whatever were on Netflix now. Of what? Flash.
Oh,
and
Flash,
so I was like, I'm going to run through that. And then I got a hair up my butt and I was like, oh yeah, I want to check out Arrow. And then I got to season 3 and I went, hey, I don't want to check that. and then I had never watched Legends, so I wanted to watch that. And Supergirl just kind of fell off.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean,
but I loved everything I watched about it. I really did. It wasn't.
I'm not saying it's transcendent TV or anything.
Of course not. No.
I guess we would be talking about far less if that was the qualifier here, but. it's definitely one of the better DC Universe shows, and the fact that they are so political, I think, is kind of refreshing. Like, if you are more right leaning than not, you probably are really gonna dislike this show.
Sure.
And some of the things that it does, because it doesn't do it in a way that you feel like it's trying to endear itself to people that might not agree. Like, it's like, we don't care if all of our fan base is people that agree with our politics, because they are very straightforward about it. This season, they are doubling down on so one of the kind of strange things it's done kind of in Flash fashion is it, like, aliens are everywhere. Aliens are a thing. They're all over the earth. Everybody knows about it. Like, there's an alien bar, which is smart because Supergirl's an alien. They've kind of just leaned into that as all.
Sure.
But they have a bunch of different races and stuff like that. The agency that Supergirl's adoptive sister works for is in charge of kind of managing the alien presence.
Yeah.
Which, when the show first started, they fought aliens most of the time. They fought all the bad aliens. They've really pivoted their role on that. In fact, I want to say last season they adopted a no gun policy. So they've been doing really weird and kind of forward stuff with their politics.
Plus, they've got John Jones, and that guy's great.
He's literally one of the best parts of the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. He is. I loved that I was totally like, oh, that's cool. It's John Jones. They're never going to let him turn into the Manhunter. Nope. And then when they did, I was like, yup, this is amazing.
And I love it. But they also turn it into a thing. Like, he talks about how, because he's also portrayed by a black man, so they go
Which
into
he
that.
Should be.
He definitely should be, but also they go into issues about why he doesn't just walk around like the Martian all the time, and he initially had a reluctance about being a superhero, about people seeing his real form, because also his backstory is completely that, like the white Martians totally murdered his race of green Martians type thing, you know?
Right.
We're talking Star Trek levels of subtlety here with their.
Well, and I think Star Trek is actually totally a great comparison, because you cannot have these shows and not have them lean left like that. You can't, because the shows are completely always about, like, it's not really thinly veiled when they're different races and they're just aliens.
You know, there's a great interview with Edward James Olmos. When they tapped him to do Battlestar, he's like, okay, like, he very consciously was like, you know what? He's like, I'm Hispanic. He's like, if we're going to do this, if we're going to put Hispanics into the future, I'm paraphrasing very badly, but he's like, we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it, you know? And that show is fantastic also, man. We
never watched
about that one. Yeah, you probably should.
I like, what's her name though? Kate.
The Shark.
Mulgrew. No.
What? No. See, that's like, now we're talking about Voyager.
See, I don't know anything about Star Trek.
TV volleyball off the rails, everybody.
Yeah. No, what was that? What was her name? She was in
Trisha Helfer?
No. She was the main. She was Starbuck, I think.
Oh yes, Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff. I like her a lot.
Who was in Flash? She's got a role in Flash.
Oh, nice. She was also. I'm not going to use this one because I haven't watched it forever. But Longmire. That show's a great show.
Interesting.
Really fun cowboy.
I'm sorry.
Really, okay. Well.
No, what did you have?
Are you volleying to me now?
No. I wasn't seriously cutting you off.
It's a fun like cowboy show that involves like tribal land and small town sheriffs and stuff, and just really good show.
Okay, all right. I will actually consider that a legitimate volley, sir.
Sure.
But I think I might have been done with Supergirl anyways.
Well. All right. I guess I volleyed back to you in a show I'm not actively watching.
You know what? I'll volley back to you then with my last comic book show that I'm in the middle of, but is currently between seasons. So this might also not exactly count, but it'll end my comic book spree.
Sure.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., still the best of all of them.
Man, I just couldn't. I tried. Still can't.
The first season, I understand. In fact, you know what's weird is it felt like they were holding off until Civil War, until Hydra showed up.
Sure.
Because that completely changed the show and made it like exponentially better.
I remember everybody, coming at Hail Hydra all the time, even after Civil War, but continuing on with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They do a really good job with it.
I think I know what my issue is with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., by the way.
Oh, there's somebody in it you don't like.
Is there?
I don't know. I thought that's the face you were giving me. I thought. Oh,
no. It's the fact that it's Marvel stuff, and I'm just not really all that into Marvel stuff.
It transcends that. Honestly, I think what they end up doing well about that show is the character work I mean, Ming-Na Wen is
who is
excellent.
Who is the biggest draw for me on that show?
Really because Clark Gregg's good too, though, man.
He doesn't that character was fine, and he was great in the movies because he was used in a minimal way. I don't want to see a show about him. I just don't care. He's not interesting. And then there was the whole Tahiti thing where I don't remember what that, I remember it and I remember, but.
Let me tell you this though. They create a family and he's the dad. Like that fits, man. Tell me that doesn't fit.
No, it does.
Okay. All right. Well,
Ming-Na Wen is definitely the biggest draw for me because I like her a lot. She has been in great movies. She's a great actor.
Just Street Fighter 2.
Movie. Let's not bag on that because she was awesome.
Who's bagging?
Yeah, that's right.
Raul Julia.
It's in his last film role.
In his farewell role.
Yeah. He has the best line maybe in any movie ever.
Is it from the Addams Family?
No, it's from Street Fighter. When he says the day Bison came into your village was the most important day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday.
Okay, all right. I've said my piece about S.H.I.E.L.D. Then
fair enough. All right, so I've been volleyed too.
You have been, all right, sir.
I have been. We've been watching the Bill Hader written, produced. Everything Barry on the HBO.
I want to watch this real bad, don't I?
Yes, you definitely do. It is in a dotted line fashion. No comparison to really content here. Just in tone, very similar in tone to Last Man on Earth. Oh, where it's got this like serious kind of tone to it, but it's very funny. It's got some really like dark humor stuff to it. And the entire premise of this show is utterly ridiculous.
I wonder if Will Forte writes for it or consults or something.
Not that I've seen in the credits.
Oh, okay.
It's like in tone, it is that this like serious with where it's not trying to hit you with butt gusting.
Sure, yeah. No.
Those are butt gusting and gut busting are very different things.
To be determined.
It's not going for those kind of laughs. It's going for those like it's the dark humor stuff. It is. It's just not trying to butt gust.
I'm sorry. Any random laughs throughout the rest of the show have to do with that phrase now, everybody.
Butt gusting? Yes. I'm glad we could coin something. I'm sorry. LLC, TM. So, do you know the premise of the show? I don't know the premise of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's a hitman who's he's like a former army.
But he's taking acting lessons. Or discovers a love for acting.
Kind of. Yeah. So his handler is pot shot.
Oh, Stephen Root.
Stephen Root. Yeah, I can never remember the dude's name.
Wow. So this has Stephen Root on the hitman end. And freaking Henry Winkler on the acting end?
Yes.
Wow.
And okay. Henry Winkler is he's the acting coach. And what it's supposed to be is that it's a stumbled into situation in like the best way where Barry is waiting outside of a place he's waiting, like he's doing scouting or something for his hit. And this girl walks up to him and is like, will you recite lines for me or something? But it ends up, he goes into the same room she does for the audition. Cause she's like, are you here for the audition? Yeah, okay. He goes in, auditions, decides he really likes it. So now he's splitting time between having to do assassinations and trying to act. And it's this, and the purpose behind it and how it all falls into place is amazing. And part of the reason I actually wanted to pivot to this after Gotham is one of my favorite characters in Gotham is not used a ton. He's used in a way I really want him in more. He's the guy who plays Zaz. And I don't know the dude's name, but he is I think he actually has alopecia. He's like bald and he's like bald.
Stan Sitwell.
That's right. That's it. But he is in Barry as like this Chechen mobster, and I guess he was originally supposed to die in the first episode, and they liked him so much they changed it up so they could keep him around, and he's a character that's continued on, and he's just perfect and funny as all hell, and I totally recommend Barry. It's very fun. Anthony
Kerrigan is his name.
Anthony Kerrigan, yeah. So he's in Barry, and he's the dude is just funny. Is like it is such a good show in how it presents its humor and what it's doing, and it actually does an interesting job of kind of dealing with kind of a PTSD situation too, because that's kind of what he's dealing with to a point.
Man, yeah, that's very near the top of my list, I want to say.
And I actually think one of the best parts of the show, by the way, is that Bill Hader is kind of the straight man. Like everybody else is kind of
freaking amazing.
Everybody else is kind of the jokers.
He's a chameleon.
He is.
He's the chameleon.
I love him.
From Gotham. Is he? No, I don't know.
That'd be great.
All right.
The chameleon was a Marvel guy, by the way.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
There's got to be a DC chameleon too.
Yeah, his name is Jerry, the chameleon.
Jerry
the Lizardman
O'Connell.
That's right. Yes, he's constantly sliding himself.
Yeah, okay.
He's sliding with John Rhys Davies. Come on, Gimli, let's go.
So I've also been watching Sliders. No, I'm just kidding.
That'd be awesome. I did watch the first couple of episodes like a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode. I want to say
doesn't hold up the way I wanted it to, but it's really entertaining.
I bet it holds up.
In the right way.
Yeah.
It holds up in the right way. It holds up the way it needs to.
All right. No, I gave you a hint about what my next one's going to be as we transition to comedy.
Sure, volleying balls.
But with the alopecia comment, do you know where Stan Sitwell resides?
No.
He resides in Arrested Development, my friend.
There you go.
So I'm making my way through Arrested Development, trying to get up to the new season. I think it's season 5. Just came out. I don't know. I also have never watched the season 4 recut, which PSA, if you watched the season 4 of Netflix bought Arrested Development, They produced a new season. Everybody was very lukewarm on season 4 and Mitch Hurwitz has some great writings out there where he explains what he had in mind originally for season 4. And in so dealing with so many different schedules and stuff like that, he came up with this idea where in Arrested Development, this is a hallmark of it, the joke builds. It's like a Seinfeld situation, right? Like,
but better.
Everything, yes, honestly, in my opinion. But
no, but for
I
sure,
also like Seinfeld, and you do not.
I don't like Seinfeld.
But for season 4, he had this idea where the jokes would pay off at the end of the season. Not all of them, obviously, but apparently enough of them that people couldn't get through the entire season a lot of the time. So while he will admit that his experiment didn't go great, he also wants everybody to know that they have recut with additional Ron Howard narration included the entirety of season 4 for Netflix. So if you watch season 4 and weren't into it as much before, I have not watched the recut version. I'm also working up to that, obviously. Sure. But yeah, I'm on I think episode 17 of the first season so far. And I couldn't not mention it because I am actively watching it, but also because it's probably still my top comedy of all time.
When does Gene Parmesan show up?
Gene Parmesan. Ah! Yeah, he's very good. That's not him. That's Henry Winkler, but they're both very good. The show is very good.
I love Gene Parmesan.
Martin Mull, man.
That guy. He's so good in Clue.
He's good in everything. Name a bad Martin Mull thing.
I can't think of a whole lot of Martin Mull things right now.
That's it. It's a short volley, sir.
All right, fair enough. I've got a short volley for you as well.
All right.
I'm so happy about this one because I got to introduce you to this one while you were here. Been watching a lot of Letterkenny.
Oh yeah,
Letterkenny.
I don't know why I Kool-Aid manned that right then, but
oh yeah, Letterkenny. There's not a ton to say about this show other than I think it's
Canadian.
To me, it's very Canadian. Adam Parkin, friend of the show, had never seen the show, and I never heard back from him, so I don't know if he liked it or not.
Who knows if he listens to this one, really? He's more of a video game guy.
He is. The show is exceptionally Canadian, and it helps if you know some of the standard Canadian lingo, but if you don't, it's still ridiculously fun.
It's still, yeah. I do not know it as well as you do, obviously, from having watched. Have you watched the whole series now?
No, I'm still on season 4, I think, and there's 6 seasons.
I'm not as up on the lingo. I'm also not as, while I do now own all of Kids in the Hall, I have not revisited or I'm way down on my Canadian.
Sure. I mean, I highly suggest that after that you get some Degrassi. You can skip to when Jay and Silent Bob are in there, but yeah, or Kevin Smith. Degrassi's.
Didn't know Degrassi was Canadian, actually. Oh, what's the other? I watch. Isn't Video Game High School kind of Canadian or something?
I think that's Canadian too. Yeah. So Letterkenny is it is exceptionally Canadian, and I love it because I love Canada. So and I played hockey, and so like the hockey, the players, I knew those guys. Like I knew guys that were really similar. They were analogs to those guys.
Dare I say more Canadian than Kids in the Hall?
No. Yes, probably.
I mean, Kids in the Hall isn't ever like Canada. I feel like this one is like.
There are some. There are a couple. But this is definitely the we're screaming
it's
Canada.
Steeped in it. Yeah, it's purposeful and
yeah, for sure. And I love it. It's one of the funniest shows I have ever watched, and I had to show you my favorite. The favorite episode is the Super Soft Birthday Party, which it is. It's just so delightful. I don't know how, after watching that, I legitimately don't know how anybody would want a different kind of birthday party. It's like the most brilliant thing. I want a horse dressed like a unicorn, not a donkey. Okay, no. Pump the brakes. I'm not just pumping the brakes. This idea is flying out the window. Letterkenny's great. It's super funny. It's the guy who plays
Tom Wayne.
Yes, the guy who plays Wayne, the main character. He created the show. I think he's directed some of the episodes.
Looks nothing like you think right now.
He does not look anything like you think, and when you see him even outside of the show, like it's even weirder, or vice versa, I guess. Really funny dude. He was a hockey player, and when he his story was when he realized he wasn't going to be a pro, he was like, well, I guess I'll do this.
Wow. Stumbled into probably something he's way better at.
I'll be an actor, and he was on some other Canadian shows, but he came up with this one, and it's a Crave show that's now on Hulu, and
it's hilarious. It's super funny.
In terms of comedy, it's one of my favorites, maybe of all time, and it is definitely up there with Kids in the Hall.
And because it is so idiosyncratic, like they lean into it, they double down on it.
The characters are all so like they're all really unique too, but they mesh so well together. And Wayne is so funny because he stands up. He's like a robot except when he's fighting people, and then he's like the best fighter in the world.
And when we say idiosyncratic, like that's it. Like he's a robot because some of his movements, like when he gets up from a table, he's just straight up, turns, walks to the phone, like stuff like that. Nobody moves like that. Or you do when you're joking around with your buddies or something. But he's completely serious. Like they never play it for really a joke inside the world or anything. Like
no. And I mean, there are some funny crude jokes. There are some just straight up funny jokes that are just like, that's ridiculous. It
is. It's funny. It's the one thing I picked up here that will stay with me forever.
All right.
I'm going to go home and watch the rest of that show. That's what I'm saying.
Allegedly. That's all I got to say. Allegedly. All right. Volley.
Good volley, sir.
Thank you.
I'm running out here. I'm curious who's going to stop first. News radio.
Oh, man. I've got it. It's queued up.
Haven't started it yet?
Not yet.
Okay. This we actually just finished, so this barely made it in under the wire. News radio is one of those unsung shows from the Seinfeld era because Seinfeld. Right. Quietly better in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say outright. I do enjoy Seinfeld, and I think it's brilliant.
Sure.
But news radio is as brilliant often, and it's very different. It's more traditionally sitcom-y. It's a news radio station wherein all the characters are wacky and get involved in strange situations that most people don't. That type of thing. Sitcom.
No,
it's a sitcom.
Situational
comedy.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you elaborated on that. Man, some of those characters though are just all timers.
They are. It's got freaking Maura Tierney in it, who I don't know what she's doing lately. I'm sorry. But I just always remember her from this anyways.
Right.
She's a brilliant comedian, often plays the straight person, but is just given like a great character to work with too.
Sure.
Like all these characters are so well defined. It's got Dave Foley in it. Speaking of Kids in the Hall.
Who's just he is so funny being so like he's smart, but he's bumbling in some ways and he just can't keep control of anything.
Also playing the straighter man, you might say. But
right.
Again, fantastic character, and just the way he then gets to play off everybody else, just always perfect. It's written real well. I'm gonna say, why wouldn't I know? Paul Sims, I think, is the guy, the showrunner. I need to look up what he's done since.
Sure.
But it's got Andy Dick in
the only thing good he's ever done.
Probably his best role ever. Yeah, the only good thing is that. Which, funny, I got my wife finally to sit down and watch this, which I think didn't land the first time we tried to do it, or something else probably came up. But she did the whole series with me now this time, and I don't want to say turned around on Andy Dick, because everything he's done since probably shouldn't turn you around on that guy.
No, he's a terrible human being.
But it's fun to go back and think about when he was less so.
When he was funny?
Because his character, he's the sweetest character on the show.
Sure.
And it endears you to him in a way that doesn't make sense, shouldn't make sense.
But I mean, at the end of the day, let's be realistic about news radio. Phil Hartman's the best part.
I was saving him for last. Yeah. Phil friggin' Hartman in also possibly his best role ever.
And I mean, the guy was, what a tragedy, maybe the biggest tragedy in comedy in terms of how that was done, except for, I think for me, I think there's a lot of people that would say Farley. I would probably lean towards Candy, but man, I mean, that's just like, they died from, self-inflicted stuff, but this is just, he was taken from us.
He did not,
in the worst way. Yeah. So,
which my wife didn't know about. So that was a fun conversation.
Sure.
How did Phil Hartman die?
Well, do we have any shotguns in the house, honey? Because I just want to make sure you're not.
Before I tell you this, no, but I'm glossing over Joe Rogan. I'm glossing over.
Well, maybe I pushed you a little bit on that.
Vicki Lewis, no, Candy Alexander. They're all great. I would just say they're all great. And what's funny is this show was also, I feel like, the show that a lot of those people said, and maybe I'm probably discrediting their career in a way, but I feel like they said, you know what? Not going to get any better than this. Like, Joe Rogan stopped acting. Dave Foley has been in a lot of other stuff, but he never did another TV show.
And he's never been a lead like that.
I never know.
Hasn't been a lead since.
And he's been a great supporting, Sky High.
I love that movie so much. So much do I love that movie.
But Vicki Lewis, same thing. It's funny. We got to see the time that she took out to make Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. But she came back to the show, and she does a lot of voice work now. She was actually in Finding Dory. Sorry.
Still haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's good. But yeah, it's just kind of a flash in the pan in a lot of ways. And speaking of Phil Hartman, so he passes away between season 4 and 5. And season 5, episode 1 is just this brilliant tribute. It's a gorgeous way of dealing with death and laughter at the same time.
Sure.
It's so good. And in so many respects, the show ends then. The entire rest of season 5 is completely different, and in a really sad way. Like, not only is it not as entertaining, not as funny oftentimes, and I do like John Lovitz. He took the place of, or kind of, he
filled a role that was lost.
Yeah. And he did it well, but there's an emptiness to the show and to the jokes.
Sure.
And not only that, but there's kind of a mean-spiritedness that was never there before. It's very strange and sad when you watch it kind of like that. And with
was that the last season?
Yeah, last season. So
that's probably a good thing then.
You could, yeah. I mean, yeah, it also probably wasn't good enough to get renewed, but I don't know the full story behind that. And I've searched a lot. There's not a ton out there about it.
I would just have to assume that once Hartman was gone, it was kind of this show, they had to know. They had to know the show was just not going to be.
No pun intended, but the heart was gone.
Yeah, no, he truly was. That's just...
Not that everybody else wasn't great, but you could tell there's a sadness, and it's sad.
That's how sadness goes.
Volleyed, sir.
To sadness. Let's go with it. Been watching the Terror, AMC's The Terror.
Never heard of it in my life.
It's a fantastic show. This is a period piece about a ship that is captained by a guy who's kind of he's not well liked, and he's not really much of a captain.
Ghost boat?
And yeah.
Really?
Kind of, yeah.
I like ghost boats.
And he ends up getting their ship caught frozen in like the Antarctic, and they are stuck there.
Did I hear about this, or did you tell me about this?
I have no idea. I did tell you. Oh, you know what? I did tell you about it because I said this is really good.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't. We're still the season's short, and the way they're doing this is it's like the anthology stuff. So
Netflix?
It was on AMC.
Oh,
where did I
said
see
AMC,
it?
that's right.
And I this was a it is a very good show.
It's the Gene Parmesan of Ghost Boat TV shows. Oh no, sorry, that's Barry again. Sorry, I forgot. Barry is the name of the lawyer in Arrested Development, not the TV show Barry that we already talked about. Wow, the longer this show goes on, the harder it gets to talk about. Really,
sure.
If you think about it.
No, I try not to. I'm just moving on. The show is, I guess, going to be an anthology thing where, like American Horror Story,
that.
where this is a contained story. The next season will be a contained story. But this is a really great one. It's super. The amount of tension that they put on this boat is in the first episode is like palpable.
Okay, palpable was the last word you said. Mark that. I've just realized that the anthology is kind of a perfect solution to that thing I mentioned earlier about how TV just going on for as long as they can. Like, what if, classic example, Lost had been an anthology instead of a keep going as long as you can, make it up as you go.
But we had it figured out from the beginning. You know, when he finally came out and said, okay, here's what we had in mind. And all he had was we knew... because they always said we knew how it ended.
They had the first season and how it ended, from what I understand.
And the only thing they knew how it ended was, and when they say this, we knew how it ended, they literally meant the last scene, where in the opening scene, the first scene of the movie or the show was Jack opening his eyes. The very final scene of the show is Jack closing his eyes.
They had the final shot.
That's it.
Is that how it ended too? I don't even remember.
That's the last shot of the show. Yeah.
Hey, they delivered.
Yeah.
Anyway, but being an anthology, dang man, like that. You know what other show is doing that fantastically? Fargo.
Man, I have heard nothing but good things about that. You've mentioned it to me, and I still haven't been watching that.
Anyways.
But I am loving this. I am actually loving all these shows kind of following this trend of let's get a story out there, because The Haunting of Hill House, mother of everything, was one of the best freaking things like that ever.
That might be what I'm thinking. Is that the Netflix one?
That's the Netflix one.
That's the one I thought.
And it has Timothy Hutton in it, and or is it Timothy Hutton?
Leverage.
Yeah. He's in it, and he's the biggest name I think that was in the show for me that I knew. Wow, that was an amazing show, and The Terror is like following that quality where it's the first episode, like I said, tense, it's palpable. Like we got sucked into it. We're like, I don't want to watch all this at once. I really want to parcel this out because it is such a good story. Like, I'm into it. And I guess this was based on a book, but I didn't want to read. I did not read any. Yeah, I didn't even know how. I didn't read the book. I also have not read anything else about the show other than the initial synopsis, and knowing that it is kind of got some tense horror-y things without the horror being like not gory horror, but psychological kind of horror.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And yeah, highly recommend it if you want to watch something tense as all hell, man.
I do. I will.
Yeah. That right there, that'll take the place of The Walking Dead for you from an AMC perspective.
You think it's better than The Walking Dead?
Oh, yeah. No, are you kidding me? This is like this is miles ahead of The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is The Walking Dead is a fun like show that takes itself too seriously more often than not. This is serious and it's well done.
AMC kind of heading up the cable TV revolution, maybe with Mad Men, The Walking Dead,
Breaking Bad,
Breaking Bad, and apparently continue to do so.
I'm telling you, man, this is a great show. Love it. I'm excited to see how it wraps up, and then I'm excited to see what they do for the next season.
Yes.
So
me too. And I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, I think you're gonna dig it.
All right, cool. How many shows do you have left?
Well, I could do.
If it's more than one, you're gonna win by default.
Okay, I could do two, but I have. I can skip one of them easily because
skip one
because we might have the same one. We'll find out.
Oh, definitely not.
Oh,
so we went to Disneyland not too long ago. I don't even know if I mentioned it on the show this
Captain
time.
EO isn't a TV show.
If it was,
every day,
this show would be only about that. Why haven't they remade that?
Because Michael Jackson is dead.
That's right. Also, he's like how now that's a bad thing. Okay.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right.
Finding Neverland.
Wait.
Johnny Depp.
Val
maybe.
Kilmer?
No.
That's Wonderland.
That's Wonderland.
Okay.
Very different movie. Let's go ahead and watch that.
There's only one way to tell.
Go ahead and watch that if you like Disney films. Don't look anything up about it.
On the way back from Disneyland, there is a Lego store in downtown Disney.
Sure.
We walked into the Lego store.
Why wouldn't you?
And I didn't know this kit existed. And at first I thought maybe it was just a recreation of the Voltron while it was put together.
Yeah.
It is. But it's also, you take it apart and put it together. You build the lion separately. It's the whole deal. And it's a Lego kit. So I had to buy it.
It's pretty rad.
Sure. I absolutely had to buy it. And then I had to teach my kids what Voltron was.
Aww.
So I've gone back and been watching the original Voltron TV show, which I didn't do when I was a kid. Like,
sure.
I remember seeing episodes of it and, of course, just absorbing what it was because I was a kid back then.
Right.
But don't remember any one specific episode at all.
Oh,
I
remembered
the music. I also...
More than I got.
I also didn't remember that in the original series, Voltron doesn't show up besides in mythical form, like the people telling the story of Voltron. They don't find the lions and form Voltron for like the first 8 episodes.
You know what? Maybe that's what annoyed me about that show.
And they do not move quickly. Like, I don't want to say it doesn't hold up. Much like whatever thing we already mentioned. Again, this is just breaking down the longer we go on.
Can't wait to hear what this ends up like. But
Sliders. It was Sliders.
Sliders, yes.
Holds up
the food
in a way, but not in the way that you might want.
Sure.
It just moves a little slow. The animation is very, like, if it's one of those shows where as a kid you were like, wow, this is cool. And then growing up, you're like, in my head, it was always great. Like He-Man. I bet there's thousands of frames of animation in every episode, you say to yourself.
There's 8.
There's 8. And I love the story how most of the time that was because they were given a budget, which still seems weird to me because He-Man and Voltron were making money hand over fist, right?
Oh, sure.
But they had a budget that was like, you can only literally use like 5 new frames for this episode. I think I'm probably exaggerating how many, but they had a limited amount of new frames they could put in a new episode.
Oh, yeah. And they had to keep reusing stuff. I mean, and to be fair, that's, the classic, they did that with Looney Tunes too.
Did they? Okay.
But I don't know if that was a budget thing or if it was just
no Looney Tunes is ever bad as
no, but like it's one of those things where if you watch some of the backgrounds, like when they're walking, it's just repeating, like it's the same background.
Sure,
over and over again.
Well, that's
but that's about it. Like
I feel like that was a what would you call that? Not workflow, but. That was like the way they worked at the time also because they did the backgrounds were the plates, whereas the animation was the cell, right? So,
right, and that's kind of, right, exactly.
But anyways, Voltron has very few animation in it. But it's fun, and I've heard that the new Netflix one is very good. So I think we'll probably make the transition to that before we finish the series, actually, but... They were enjoying that show, and that Lego kit is possibly one of my favorites of all time.
That's cool. I will actually, I'll pivot. I'm going to ditch one of these, and I'm going to pivot to a different show.
That's all I got. I volley. That's my final volley.
All right, I got 2 more. I'll do them quick, though.
Okay.
I am actually in the middle of the 2nd season of Castlevania on Netflix, which
on my list.
Man, those I actually showed the first episode to Beth, and I was like, I think you should watch it. Just see if you dig this. I know, and she likes animation. She can totally get down on cartoons and stuff.
She is an artist.
She is. This isn't a show she's gonna watch, but she was really impressed with the first episode.
Oh, cool.
And that first episode is rewatching it, man. What an introduction. And this has the same whinging that every other thing that's got that's got an original
source material.
Yes, thank you. It's got original source material. People still whinge about it. It's not Castlevania enough. Yeah.
Crapplevania.
It's super good. That first season was great build up, great introductions.
Which Castlevania is the best thing to do that about, given how much there's
like 100 games and they're
Resident
all different.
Evil, but yeah, it's been that whole thing has just been
the only constant is Dracula. Everything else is like, oh, now there's 700 other Belmonts, and that's what this is. This is another Belmont. That's the concept being that the Belmonts were run out of town, and this is kind of the last Belmont.
Take something that's Castlevania in spirit, and this seems even more so than spirit, and go with it if it's good, people.
Totally, and that's what this is. The voices are all fantastic. The animation is incredible. Like awesome. It is just beautiful animation.
I'm stoked they did a 2nd season too. I didn't think that was a for sure thing.
I think there's a 3rd season coming too.
That's cool.
I hope there is because it's great. It's totally worth your time.
Sweet.
The last one I'll do here is this is just in constant rotation.
You've
right now.
Scored the final point. You're
and this is going to be
insult to injury.
This is a slam dunk too. This is not only
the slam dunk of volleyball, everybody.
That's right. Well, okay, fine. I'm spiking it now for the big points at the end.
Doesn't ring a bell. I don't really follow sports.
Well, it's what you do when you have a drink and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna put some alcohol in it. Spiked.
Still not really.
No, it's. I'll explain it later.
Drinking.
Yeah, it's a drinking game. Volleyball,
football.
Yeah, you get hit in the face with the ball, you win. Anyways, my
soccer.
My last. Are we just naming sports now? Cricket.
What, you drink while you play soccer? I don't. Or football. I'm sorry.
By the way, this is my rule for things. You cannot call something a sport if you can smoke a cigarette while you're doing it. So golf, not a sport. Bowling, not a sport. Those are games. That's all I'm saying. Baseball, not a sport. Okay, so last thing. This is kind of in constant rotation. I am not caught up on the current season, but I can't stop watching this show right now, and it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, wow. We did over an hour without mentioning Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
It was tough.
We can't even do that on the non-TV shows.
It was the last thing on my list.
Oh man, I mentioned it in I joked around earlier that this show was going to be us trying not to mention Brooklyn Nine-Nine for an hour straight, and you were like, ha ha ha, we can't talk about that.
We can't.
We should.
It could be its own show, honestly.
It could be. And what do you say about it? Like, Arrested Development may be my favorite comedy of all time. Brooklyn Nine-Nine may be equal with it.
It crawls up there. It's real tough too.
And that's a hard. You know what? I shouldn't even, because then we start thinking about 30 Rock, and then we start.
For me, Parks and Rec would be up there.
Yeah, so although Parks and Rec had a slower first season, that I think might bring it down.
I ignore the first season. There is no first season. I would also it's the same thing. Scrubs is up there for me, man.
The Office,
and they all kind of had weird seasons that didn't end well. Like
sure,
Scrubs ended, and then it got picked up by ABC or something.
Oh, really?
And then they did another season, and we don't acknowledge that season.
That. It's kind of funny we got through a TV episode without you mentioning Scrubs too.
I could have, but
we haven't done any of these things that we're saying because we're mentioning them all right now.
Yeah, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine, man, number one, every day I could sit down and just watch a new Halloween episode, just a different one.
Consistently funny, even after switching networks now. Like, I was a little worried picking up this most current season.
Yeah. Nope.
You do not need to be.
No, I'm 3 episodes. I think we're 3 episodes in, and no, everyone just perfect. Good. And you know what? I think one of the things that I love about this show is that as it goes on, these characters actually are evolving.
They do. Yeah.
They're and in like the best ways, like we're seeing it early on in the show. Rosa refuses to tell anybody anything about her, and as the show goes on, she still holds on to that in many ways, but she is kind of also opened up. Amy has relaxed in certain ways
about her bisexuality,
right? Yeah. And which I love that was brought out, and the way it was handled.
That episode is really good.
Is important.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it was that part of, like, she brings up the fact that I don't want people to even think about that. It's got nothing to do with anything.
The show itself, in fact, I want to say first season, I don't remember any examples, but as it's gone on, it's brought in serious subjects and dealt with them really well in a comedic, Arrested Development did it a little bit too. Like, for all its funny quirks, like, there is a familial heart to it in a lot of ways, like even if it's dysfunctional, and that Brooklyn Nine-Nine does it too, man. Yeah,
and it's awesome because every season we've seen it. It's not just been here and there. You see it as the show goes on, that the characters learn from mistakes. They work with each other in different ways, and it's still like they've still managed to keep those characters as they were. Like, the characters are still at their core who they were at the beginning. They're still like, Jake is still the goofball. Amy is still very uptight. Rosa is still very closed off. Charles loves washing hair.
Joe Laturglio, man. Joe
just kills it. Just kills it. And I think, the most obvious and the most The most interesting change is, of course, Holt, that he starts off in this, he was always very dry, but he has opened up so much more to them.
But in the driest way.
And I love the fact that the relationship, I did appreciate this too. Early on in the show, the relationship between him and Peralta it's pretty contentious. It's not the hardest, it's not overly serious, but it's a fairly contentious relationship.
Because they are opposite characters, really.
And watching that progress to the Halloween episodes that then give them a little bit more, like they start going back and forth a little bit more. And it's awesome. It's so well done. It's Michael Schur is not like...
That's true. How many Michael Schur shows have we talked about on this alone?
The one.
Oh, that's true. I think, well...
And you mentioned The Office.
Was, yeah, so okay.
I mean, I could say The Good Place, because that's...
You could. I need to be in the middle of that. I'm not, so I didn't include on my list. I feel like you are not technically... You haven't watched it within...
No, we're not caught up because of current... So we finished everything that was on Netflix, and so we're waiting for the next season.
We'll save that for the next TVVB. I would love to just end the show right there, but tune in next week. Are we done?
Yes.
All right, Matt wins the first episode of TVVB, I guess.
Woo,
I don't
Shazam!
know. Let us know if Matt won. In fact, that would be, then we can make it official.
Yeah, hopefully you cut down a whole bunch of that Walking Dead.
Sure, no, I probably did. And thanks for being with us. Either way, we'll be back next week. Whenever this show comes out, I'm almost positive we'll be back the week after.
I love that you phrase that in the past tense. Sure I did. Because you know that when somebody listens to this, you're gonna it works. Like you were ahead of the curve.
Book Club for Movies.
Hey, Shazam!